welcome you all. So before we start, just wanted to show you this book. This is basically the reference for uh, Shiv Sutras, and you can see it says the Supreme Awakening because the text that we are going to discuss, these are so special. It is very small, but yet it is very profound. It is the Shiv Sutras, all the way from Kashmir. Okay. Um, yeah, all the way from Kashmir. So first, how does this originate? Where does this come from? So these are basically 1200 years old, and the story says that there was this sage called Vasugupta who had these dreams that there was a rock under which these sutras are written, and these were revealed to him by Shiva. So these 77 verses were found in a rock inscribed in Kashmir. That's around 1200 old story. But let's not go if it's real or not, but that's what it says because that's how much profound these are. The very short and crisp sayings hold a very deep meaning behind life, existence, and enlightenment. So these are said to come directly from Shiva. So today we are going to study one part of it. So these Shiv Sutras are basically divided in three parts. These contains around 77 small verses. Out of these three parts, it is structured like this. The first part is basically what is the most transformative, and it operates at the highest level because it carries the very deepest truth of existence. Then comes the second, which needs your body and mind to grasp, and the third is of the lower effort where you have to keep some practices in case you don't realize the truth which were there in the first section itself. So this, not to be hurried because these are very transformative. We will take only the first part of the Shiv Sutras, which are also the most profound ones. So this is how it starts. Okay. Before we say, they read the invocation of these Shiva Sutras. May I inspire to liberation by worshipping you, without withdrawing from experience and the world, and without seeking dominion, but by becoming intoxicated with the abundant liquor of devotion. This is a clear symbol for enlightenment, where there is a prayer to liberate by invoking the grace of Shiva. So we will see in this section what does Shiva means in this sense, and what are the teachings from here. All right. So the first sutras is 22, has 22 verses, and let's uncover them one by one. Okay. So what's the first slide? The first sutra is Chaitanyam Atma. It means consciousness is the self. This is a very transformative sutra if you ask me. Consciousness is the self. It directly attacks at your own identity, that whoever you think you are, there's a more extension to it. You're not this body, you're not this mind, but yourself is this consciousness. And this consciousness is pure consciousness. So this sutra says that consciousness is the self, and that is also independent of you. It exists as one organic unity, and you are part of it. The second meaning of this sutra is that only consciousness is something which belongs to you. There is nothing else that belongs to you. Out of ignorance, you can think that I have connection with my brother, or I have my mother or sister, or I have my job, or my title, or my personality. But if you ask these profound wisdom, you will see that only consciousness is what is with you. And this independent consciousness is your true identity. And this was always present. This pure awareness is always with you. It's just that it needs to be recognized. So your suffering, your every limitations comes from ignorance. Okay. Okay. So the first sutra says Chaitanyam Atma. That means consciousness is the self. So if our true identity is this pure consciousness, why do we not feel full? So the answer to this question is because there is not fullness of knowledge within us. And our goal as an empirical self is to remove this ignorance and fill ourselves with this pure knowledge. And this, okay, one more analogy. If we say that ignorance is like darkness, so how do you remove darkness? You can only remove darkness by adding more light. And this is the light of consciousness. So this Atma is, that is your empirical self, is of the nature of pure consciousness. And this awareness is the self. So this is a very transformative sutra. Like till the end of your session, you have to keep this question in the back of your mind, that who is it that is aware of these things. As we go deep dive into session, we will also uncover different aspect of this. But this one self inquiry, who am I? Who is this thing where everything is coming from? Where is the source of this light? And we will see that this consciousness was always with you, and this is the only thing that is true to you, and this is the only thing that will be after your death. So this is your pure nature, this is your true self, this is your pure consciousness. This was the first sutra. The next, jnanam bandha, that means knowledge is bondage. What do you mean by knowledge is bondage? Okay, interesting thing. Let's see, I am holding this mobile. Okay. The second sutra is knowledge is bondage. How can knowledge be bondage? So let's see, I am holding this thing. The moment I am seeing this, I am having an image of what thing this is. Like I'll come to know, okay, this is mobile, this is a smartphone, this is a mobile phone or a Samsung. But this particular thing is basically what is the objective knowledge. So we are saying till we are only in this objective field, we cannot know our true self. The first is the root, Chaitanya Atma. Consciousness is the self. The second, and then we also saw that there is limitation. Why there is limitation? There's limitation because of not purity of knowledge. And how are you going to remove it? By filling yourself with knowledge. And this objective knowledge is what is basically your sense of bondage. This is what is keeping us in limitation. Because as we uncovered, that the moment we see this thing, we attach a name to it. The moment we see a form, we attach a name to it. And then we think, okay, we know what this is. But and this is similarly to what we have done to ourselves, that we believe that I am this name or I am this thing. But in reality, this objective knowledge is basically what is keeping us in this bondage. One more thing, if you see that, how can we infer this objective knowledge? If me and you both can observe same thing at the same time, we can say, okay, there is this. So for this, we will need two things: the observer and the observed. And this is what we are saying, that this is we are living in this relative reality. But a true reality or perfect reality is this light of consciousness. And that is not in this objective field, but it is the pure subjectivity. It is the source. You have to understand that this objective field is coming from a field of subjectivity. And this is common between all. So, because we are so much bonded by the attachments, and that too from the form that our mind has perceived it to be. This is why this jnanam bandha, that means this knowledge is bondage. One more thing, if you ask in this term of God, ki, why, how do you see God? So people tell you, people have these things of these scriptures also have it, right? So if you believe in something, if you believe, okay, this is that the God has a name, and this is what I believe, till this point, you do not have the direct experience. So if you only believe, okay, this was something, till then you have not achieved your own true full reality. And this is what this sutra says, that you do not have to rely on this of this knowledge that is borrowed from a different person, but you have to, the true knowledge is what comes from within, where knower, known, and knowing all sees into one pure knowledge. And that is the non dual experience that we are seeing. Okay. The third sutra, Yogi Yoni Varga Kala Shariram. What does this mean? Okay. So, this bondage, this yoni means creation, and that is also what can be said with Maya. So Maya basically what allows, Maya is basically what separates this duality. Maya is basically what limits us as an individual. It creates a sense of separation, and this manifested reality, this Maya does that division, and out of that division we also do this action. So these things are also bondage. So we are saying that a true self is something which is beyond Maya, and that is the pure consciousness. So if you can see an analogy, like there's a source of light, but on that source of light, there's a lot of coverings of Maya, covering of desires, and your work is to remove that covering. And when you go beyond that doing, when you settle in that non-doing, when you don't believe in anything, but you only surrender to that experience, is when you can attain to your true self. Okay, this is very interesting. What this sutra says, Matrika. Matrika is basically, in Hindi, in Sanskrit, there is Matrika. That is basically the words from a to e, this word mala, right? There are this separation vowels, you can say, of out of which every word has created. So this sutra says that there is words, and these words hold limited power only. Like if I say tree using word, right? If I am saying tree, you will have a form to it. But then this is also what is limited, because we are limited by the word of power, by the power of these words. So this matrika chakra, that means every vowel from R to Sha, that is in Sanskrit word mala, is basically what is giving rise to this name and form, and ultimately this objective field also. So that is also basically has limited experience, and this very thing is what is the energy of Shiva also. So we say that this universal consciousness is dynamic, not static, dynamic, and then it is vibrating. And this universal consciousness also have some creative aspects: creation, organization, destruction, concealment, and grace. Or the cycle of creation, this is cyclic process: creation, organization, destruction. Concealment, it means the power of Shiva to hide itself from us. You cannot see Shiva with your eyes, because it is the power of this Shiva itself, that it has limited itself and it is hiding from you in your plain sight. Like there's a light of source, there's a source of light, but it is currently covered. And grace, grace is basically what removes that ignorance, that completes, that fills you with that pure knowledge. So concealment and grace. Shiva hides itself and then reveals itself also. But we say that by the time you are in this objective field, you will be associating yourself with relative reality, not the complete true nature of reality. Okay, this is very interesting. Udyamo Bhairava. What is Bhairav? In the previous sutra, we explored there is this cyclic cycle of creation, that is creation, organization, destruction. This Bhairava is basically what is the addition of these things. Bha is for Bharan, Ra is for Ravan, Va is for Vaman. That is basically creation, organization, destruction. Okay, so this is a complete cycle. This is pure consciousness that we're talking about. It completes the whole existence. So Bhairav, in this sense, is basically what is the complete aspect of God. That is your pure consciousness. Okay, the dynamic consciousness. Remember this. Okay, what is Udyamo? Udyamo means active efforts. And this sutra says that active efforts itself is that godly thing. You will need this spiritual practice to be at intensity, to be such a great effort. Only then you can be God. Only then you can reveal to that true nature. Here, there are two things. One is you have to make that efforts. You have to make that efforts to first remove your desires, finish your karmas, and then when you are in meditating, when you are putting in that active effort will lead you to become Bhairava itself. When we say a great analogy would be like you are a drop, and with your true efforts, that drop will merge into that ocean. Or we can say your individual consciousness merges into that universal consciousness. And this is what we are saying, that Udyamo Bhairava. That means your active efforts will reveal God to you. And your intense effort is needed. And this intense action will suddenly reveals that flash of light. And this is what we are also saying, that with your active efforts, you will be flashed upon with that super consciousness, with that universal consciousness. So, in that experience of enlightenment, that is basically when your individual consciousness merges into that universal consciousness. And that is when you experience intense light all around, only white light. And that is your, because the light is the first physical manifestation of this consciousness. Consciousness, physical manifestation is light. So this sudden 4 or 5 seconds of super ecstatic is basically Bhairav revealing itself to you. Or you can say this universal consciousness, you will be merged into this universal consciousness by only active efforts, flashing forth of active awareness that instantaneously makes universal consciousness shine. So it says that active efforts is needed to remove your ignorance and to reach your experience, your transcendental consciousness, spontaneous splashing forth. So this is what is Udyamo Bhairava. Okay. The next sutra says that it talks about your chakras. That when you are doing your sadhana, your energy will rise and it will complete the wheel of energy. It will complete, it will, the chakras in you will align itself by establishing and meditating on the wheel of energies. The differentiated universe comes to an end. What does this mean? So we are saying that when your eyes are open, you are seeing always duality. Why? Okay. So when I am seeing this phone, there is a split here where I am seeing, I am the seer. This is the object that is being seen, right? And there is an act of seeing. So a pure knowledge divides itself into these three parts. So how can you experience pure knowledge when your eyes are open? And hence we are saying by the time your awareness is outwardly pointed, you will be seeing this differentiated world. You will be seeing this duality. And this is what is the power of Maya. This is what Maya does to us. It limits us. But then it is also necessary, because then when with your awareness you see what is your true reality, you achieve to it. You tend to strive towards it. So when your energy, when in your when in your sadhana, in your spiritual practice, you are meditating, what what will happen is that your energy will rise. There's a static energy in you, and you when there is limitation, your limitations comes to an end, your energy starts rising up your spine. And once that energy goes above and merges into that pure consciousness, that is when we say that this wheel of energies and the differentiated universe. That is when you first time experience your non-dual awareness. That is when you see the nature of reality as it is. By the union with the collective whole of Shaktis through intensive fixed awareness, there is the disappearance of the universe as something separate from consciousness. So currently, we see two things. One is this consciousness, and second is this material world. That is the manifested reality. We see only five elements, right? Everything is made up of these five weight elements: water, earth, fire, air, and ether. So this is something what is the manifested reality. And there is a source, that is the consciousness, that is the pure consciousness. But we do not see that pure consciousness currently. So we say that when that experience happens, when there is an intense active efforts, when that active efforts is there, Udyamo, then your wheel of chakra aligns, and when you meditate on it, your energy rises, and through your crown chakra, when it goes above and merges into that ocean, that is when you experience your pure consciousness. When you direct your attention to your energy centers, the world that you have created disappears. The world that you have created, this world is basically what derives from your false identification of I. When you associate yourself with I as your empirical self, yeah, like your ego, you create this versus me, I versus others. The exact moment when you have that awareness, okay, I am this, there's a separation. If I am this, then that is that, right? There's a separation, there's a duality. So there's a world, we say this creates a separation between us. My world is outside and I am here in this body inside. So when your attention as a whole, you do it in one pointedness, is when the world that we believe that this is the truth comes to an end, because a greater truth, a greater essence overtakes it, overshadows it, and it is what we are calling Bhairav, the flashing consciousness, the instant flash that removes all ego, that removes all falsehood, because then you understand, okay, this everything is basically your light. Everything that we are seeing is illuminating in that light itself. That is the difference. So this is basically that when you are with your active efforts, your chakras will fill and your world that you have created will disappear. This happens when your individual Shakti merges into your cosmic Shiva. That means there is an individual soul, right? Your empirical self. Your energy rises and meets with that cosmic Shiva, the universal consciousness. When that union happens, the destruction of the universe, that is, for you, this universe will cease to exist because there will be no you. There will be only to this experience. And this 4 5 second, we are striving towards this 4 5 second experience because it is so profound, so super ecstatic that it will stay with you till the end of your life, because your body will have that moments of what it has experienced in that truth. The next sutra, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushapta Veda, Turya Bhogasam Bhava. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. What these are. Okay. We are saying that there are three states of consciousness that Western psychology believes in. First is Jagrat. Jagrat means your waking state. Your eyes are open, your attention is outside. I am seeing this phone in this Jagrat Avastha, in this way where my attention is outward. This is basically one state of consciousness, that is Jagrat. Second is Swapna. Swapna is basically when you're dreaming. When you're dreaming, when you're asleep, that is a different awareness. That is not when you're awake. That is when not when your attention is directed outward. That is inside. Sushupti is basically your deep sleep, where you have, that is the state of unconsciousness, where you are not neither outward in Jagrat nor inward in your Swapna, but you are stagnant and you have no awareness. That is your unconscious state. So these three states of consciousness is basically what Western psychology also believes in. But here we have a fourth one. This is what we call Turiya. What does Turiya means? Turiya, Turiya basically means the fourth. It has no meaning. It only means the fourth. We see the three states of consciousness, either inward, either outward, or either it is stagnant, right? This is what is the vibration. We say that this consciousness is dynamic. That means it is vibrating. So this is basically this three stages of consciousness. But then what is the fourth? This is the fourth one is Turiya. And this is basically the screen. The screen where every three states of consciousness is existing at the same time. So when we are saying, okay, so when we are speaking of Turiya, Turiya is basically the fourth state. We only know three states. You are aware when you are in your Jagrat state. You are aware when you are in your dreaming state. You're not aware, but you know that once you are coming out of it, that there was a dream. But then there's this third also where you are in deep sleep, where you are unconscious. But this Turiya is basically what we are saying the real identity. The screen where every three states are changing. Okay, one more analogy. If I go from state A to state B, currently I am in state A and I am changing to state B. Since there is a state B, we will say that there was always a state B present while I was in state A, just in a different mode. So, in these three states of consciousness, A, B, C, Turiya, Sushupti, and Jagrat, not Turiya, Swapna, these three are happening in this plane of awareness of this Turiya, the fourth one, this one which is common in all the three states of consciousness. And this is what we are aiming for, the Turiya state. This is what we are, the light that we said, the fourth light is basically your Turiya's experience itself. So your deep meditation state ends, your experience, your enlightenment process ends at this Turiya state. This is basically the goal, where there is no difference between observer and observed. When there is only non-duality, where there is only one truth, that is the Turiya state. So Turiya is basically the witness, the one who is watching all of it, who is aware of all of it. And that is your true self. Okay. Now, how do I use this thing? So understand, like, you are watching a movie and you see that your character is there on the movie that is being projected, and that character itself goes on through changes in his emotions. One day he is happy, one day he is very sad, one day he might be frustrated. But these things is happening to that screen, to that character in the movie. But we are saying that your true identity is the screen on which this movie is playing. You are not somebody else, but you are the pure awareness in which every experience is happening. And in order to do this, to experience that thing, that is the way of meditation, where your attention is inward and you are trying to observe the observer. Who is the one who is watching me? Who is the one who is conscious of everything? And this Turiya state is common between all. This screen is common between all. Okay, a little apart from spirituality. The greatest scientific discovery was the theory of relativity. What does it say? It says that you can observe same things for particles who have the same, who are moving at the same velocity. That is true for us as well. That since me and you are in the same time space, we are able to see same things. That me and both can see this object that I have in my hand. But there is a more to it. This Turiya state is the screen on which every awareness is happening. So the goal of meditation is to reach this state of Turiya. And this is basically what we are calling the Shiva state. So when we say of Shiva, Shiva as a universal consciousness, for us, it is a state to be realized. It's the awareness of this entire screen. And this thing is what changes everything. This Turiya state is filled with Anand. The nature is what we are calling Satchit Anand. Sat means truth, Chit means consciousness, Anand means bliss. So this screen, this consciousness was eternal. There was never a time where this consciousness was not there. Even before Big Bang, there was a single static energy. That is itself a consciousness in static motion. But then there was vibration, right? So this consciousness, the first is truth. Truth means it was ever present. And that truth is also your truth. If I am speaking of truth and I am saying that it is your true nature, it means it is everybody's empirical self's true nature as well. If truth is applied to me, it also applies to you. So this is your true nature and it was eternal. This is why Bhagavad Gita 2.20 says that a soul is eternal, it is unborn. Because this you were ever time present. Your true nature was always present. The second is consciousness. It is conscious. There's a single universal consciousness that is operating within us, that unites us. The great ocean of consciousness is basically what is in all of us, and we are like a drop. Till we realize ocean in this Turiya state. And the third is Anand. What this Anand means. Okay, you have felt sadness. You have also felt happiness, but you have not felt the bliss. And this is what they are calling the nectar of life, the nectar of human existence. That if you want to explore the totality of your consciousness, you will have to experience every part of your being. And that also includes your blissful nature. So, when in meditation, you get to experience that Turiya state, when you get to experience that non dual state, where your observer and observed becomes one, you are united with that energy. You are united with this blissful energy, this 4 5 seconds, right? And this bliss is such a great essence that once it happens, it will stay to you in every three other states of your consciousness, whether it is Jagrat, Swapna, or Sushupti. The bliss of the fourth state is produced in the differences of Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. In between these things, when you are changing from Jagrat to Swapna, Swapna to Sushupti, right? There is the interconnected link between these things. And that is the Turiya state. That is the fourth one which is present in all of it. So in your meditation, when you achieve to that Turiya state, this blissful state is what stays with you because it's such a profound energetic experience. When through the grace, there is this emergence of Bhairav consciousness and through Shakti sadhana. That means when your chakras are aligned and when it merges in this universal consciousness, this fourth is revealed. This fourth transcendental consciousness becomes a constant feature. That means when you are awake, that too you have that taste of that Turiya state that happened once. And this is what we are saying, that this experience is only thing that removes your sufferings. Your sufferings happen due to attachments, due to your ignorance. But once you are filled with pure knowledge, this bliss remains with you in every state. And this is what makes it so powerful. Okay, Jnanam Jagrat. So whatever knowledge that we have in this objective field is basically what is constituting the Jagrat Avastha. That I know this is a mobile. I know this is this thing. I know this is that thing. I know this is a tree. This is an objective knowledge. Here it is stated an external organic knowledge, something which has observed in this objective field. And whatever I know is basically in this waking state. The dreaming state is different, right? Dreaming is that different state. But this is constituting your Jagrat state, this objective knowledge. This knowledge is gained between contact between mind and object. And this is what we are calling Jagrat for the first state. The second is Swapna Vikalpa. That means this perception. This Vikalp means imagination. So this is basically what is constituting the second state that we call the dreaming state. Third is aviveko. That means unconsciousness. That is your sushupti, where there is no awareness. That is unconsciousness. That is your dreamless state, where dream is also not there. You're sleeping, but dream is also not there. No maya is there. So we say that in that sushupti, in that deep sleep, you are closest to your God. God, if you are calling the screen of awareness, this state of sushupti, where is unconsciousness, your ego is not operating. Your ego, your maya, comes into effect the moment you open your eyes. The moment you open your eyes, there is limitation. There comes the sense of I. This is basically due to your default mode of network. That is your brain that is the operating the ego part. You the awareness that I am this self, this ego self, is basically what is giving rise to this ignorance, the sense of I. This is basically what's the primal ignorance in Kashmir Shaivism. It calls anafmal. That means this sense of individuality, the sense of separation that I am this and that is that. So aviveko means unconsciousness. So that unconsciousness state, there is no sense of I. And when there is no sense of I, you are pure consciousness. And that is why you will see, you will experience that people are saying, I feel so good, relaxed after a good sleep. Why? Because in that state, in that sushupti, that is already blissful. Because you are in contact with, at the closest to your true self in this state. So when you are in your dreamless state, is when uh, you get that relaxation. Okay. So by now we have covered the first 10 of this thing, Shiv Sutras. Any questions till now? We will have one more question session in the next. If you can just text in the chat box. All right. The Yeah. Can you write it in the can you write it in the chat box, please? Yeah. Okay. So the 11th one says that there is Treya Bhokta means these three things. This Jagran, Jagran Avastha, Swapna Avastha, and Sushupti Avastha. These three things are witnessed by only one screen. That means if we are calling it Shiva, if we are calling Shiva as our eternal witness, that Shiva is watching me every time. So we can say that these three things are observed by only one single Shiva. That is the eternal witness. And he is the enjoyer of every three states that we have because it's the Turiya state. And this Turiya state is our true nature. But once we are in that state, only then we can know that we were always one with that Shiva. When these three states merges in a state of bliss, great powers can be exercised on the plane of manifestation. This means that when you have that, when you achieve that thing, their siddhis and these some special powers come together. You get to be in ecstasy before for no reason, right? So one who experiences the delight of supreme eye consciousness in all the states of consciousness becomes the master of his senses because he know that what is my true self. He know that suffering that happens is to that character in that movie. But I am not the movie. I am the screen in which this movie comes on projecting and comes turns off projecting. Okay. So this sutra says that these experiences are so profound that one would be filled with wonder. One would be filled with wonder. These are so much, these experiences bring so much ecstasy. And that is what we are calling that once this thing happens is when you get to be, you get to have that state even when you are in here. Okay. So this is also interesting. It says that you do not have your personal will as a free will. There is one Ichha Shakti. There's one Ichha Shakti. And it is what is called Uma here. That means this energy is basically what is considered in a feminine aspect. So this there is one Ichha Shakti who is pervading everything. Ichha means your will. So there is only one divine will. In ignorance, we think that we have the free will that we can do everything, but there is only one divine will. And when and it does not even matter that if you think you do not believe in this because there is always one thing that is beyond you. And this is what we are saying that there is only one divine will that is operating in everything. So this is what we are saying that in the grander scheme of things, that this will is basically the power of Shiva, is the energy of Shiva, and this pervades everything. That also when you are aligned yourself to this Shakti is basically when you uncover grander uh, manifestation powers. Because if your will is aligned to that divine will, your manifestation happens faster. Also, Ichha Shakti, will of a yogi who has realized Bhairav consciousness is Swatantra Shakti. Okay, so if when we are saying that there is this three states of consciousness, dreaming, waking, and sushupti, we are not controlling it. It is happening to us. We are just observing it. We cannot have that, right? So, but the one who has realized Bhairav consciousness, the one who have realized that universal consciousness, what he can do is he has this state of shunyata. He has that permanent state of shunyata from where that is this center. So his will is basically in his meditation, he can achieve that shunya state faster, easily. So with his choice, he can pull himself out of this manifested reality. He can go into that shunya. But this will is not available to one who is not achieved that state yet, who does not know the shunya within. Shunya means your fullness of reality that is in emptiness, that everything is there. There's no boundaries in here. So that is what is basically that yogi becomes swatantra. That means absolute willpower. Okay. Drishyam Shariram. This is also very powerful statement. Drishyam Shariram. Drishyam means whatever you see, and Shariram means body. So this sutra means that whatever you are seeing is essentially your own body. There is nothing that is apart from here. Like Wherever you are sitting, look around the room. Every object is appearing in this same awareness in which these words are also heard. Nothing you can see is outside of it. If you feel the wall of who is this listening, go quiet. You will see that everything is inside one light of consciousness. Everything is appearing in this light of consciousness. This says that if you see life in this way, you will say everything as a aspect of your own I. Not I as an empirical I as in divine I. That I am this fullness reality. That this entire perceived world is appearing in my consciousness, something which is not outside of me, that is like an appearancing that is perceived in my awareness, and hence this entire world is mine. This entire world is my body. This shariram means body, not the physical body, but where my boundaries are. Whatever you are seeing is me. This is what is aham brahmasmi. I am that infinite. That entire perception is my own manifestation itself, because I am not apart from that consciousness. Okay, so we have some questions here. I'll Is it like a false knowledge, the one that is born of Maya? Okay, so everybody is born because of Maya. If everybody is here to complete his karma, everybody is here to complete his niyati. And this is not false, but it's not complete knowledge. It is what we calling limited knowledge. But this complete knowledge is only when there is no difference between the one who is knowing what is being known and the act of knowing itself. So these three things merge in that state of non-dual awareness, in that deepest meditation. How can it says Maya is operating? Okay, so understand that this consciousness is always there, and this consciousness is free of Maya. When that consciousness, this Maya, what it does, it is the power of Maya. Like how a fire and the heat cannot be different. Maya is an aspect of God. Maya is an aspect of that consciousness. And because of that power, it is applied to us. Because of that power, that infinite contracts itself. And that is what we're seeing. The moment our eyes are open, Maya is operated on us because we feel that individuality. And this individuality gives that this sense of I. So in this unconscious state, Maya is not operating because you do not have that sense of I itself, right? Okay. So hence we can say that Maya is always there whenever you are when you are in Jagrat state. You will always have that limitation because of you can move only in limited direction. You can move only in limited space. You can only occupy this much space. That is what we are calling this power of Maya. What it has led to believe us in this limitation. But what we are saying is that there is a screen in which every experience is illuminating, and that thing disappears in this meditation. And also when you're unconscious, but you just don't know it. But when that state of unconscious is that very state is achieved while you are filled with conscious, when you are full with conscious awareness, is when you get escape from Maya itself. And when there is a light, there is no darkness, right? You can only remove darkness with the fuller of light. When there is everything light, there is no darkness. What's the difference between deep sleep and nirvikal samadhi? Exactly this. In deep sleep, you do not have that awareness that you are in deep sleep. But in nirvikal samadhi, you know that you are there as an awareness, not as a body, but you are there as an awareness. how much time will it take to attain Cavalier? Cavalier here means liberation. So that will depend on certain factors. First is the karma. Karma is not what you're doing right now, but it is also the momentum that you have taken from your past lives. So if you have to work throughout these karmas in this life, and the intensity of your meditation. Your meditation is basically you shifting your position, and hence this position also changes your karma. Karma is attached to this identity, and in your spiritual practice, you are shifting your identity, and hence you are burning your karmas. So the intensity will also matter in how fast you achieve that cavalier. The other is basically direction. You will also need direction because to go there with the right direction, you will polish off the dust that is there, and in that deep meditation, it will happen. If you are asking me exact time, so it is said 48 minutes. 48 minutes is basically what completes a cycle of in body. So 48 minutes is term given by Mahavir Swami, as well as it is mentioned in Tantra that 48 minutes of deep meditation can will lead to Nirvikalp Samadhi. Nirvikalp means thoughtless. Samadhi means absorption. So in thoughtless absorption, you are not there. Your sense of I is not there. So it will take some time to be there, right? Because you cannot stop your thoughts immediately. You cannot stop your body immediately. How can you stop your mind at your will, right? So it will take some time, but 48 minutes of deep meditation can lead to liberation when you are in that state. I'll give you a hack of how you can sit that long after the session. So is the will of Turiya the screen state? Okay, Turiya is there, right? That's the screen. That is always there. This is this Shakti is basically a part of it, but not exactly that. Like how Shiva Shakti cannot be different, it's like the same aspect, but a different thing. So there's not will of Turiya. Turiya does not have a will. Turiya is that static pure awareness. If you are having this energy, it is operating in in two forms, either potential or kinetic. So what we are talking about is this static screen of awareness. It does not move. So it does not have a will also. The other part has a whole has a will, one divine will, what we have experienced, right? This Ichcha Shakti, what they call it. So it does not have a will. What is exactly mean by Sahaj Samadhi, Nirvikalp Samadhi, and Savikalp Samadhi? So Nirvikalp Samadhi is the goal. Once that thing happens, Nirvikalp means thoughtless. Savikalp means with thought. So if you are having this thought and you become one with it, then your sense of I is not there. You are only seeing that thing, right? So this is Savikalp. Higher form is Nirvikalp, when there is no thought itself, where there is no thought of object also. When this Savikalp is when you are filled with this pure objectivity, when your whole perception of object has become one this thing. Nirvikalp is when there is no objective field, but only pure subjective field. That is no thought at all. That is a Nirvikalp. And Sahaj means spontaneous. So once your Nirvikalp is there, then becomes the Sahaj state. That it becomes your experience. That blissful state has now the Tuya experience, what you have done, now has transcended to you in your Jagrat state. You can be in ecstasy without any reason. So this is what we call Sahaj. So the goal is Nirvikalp Samadhi. We go into that thoughtless absorption. Okay. So yogi sees everything as his own body. If everything is consciousness, he knows that everything is pervaded by that one supreme consciousness, one supreme I. Not this I, but this divine I that is everywhere. Everything is made up of some matter. What does a non-living also has consciousness? Okay, so uh, consciousness is everywhere, but some things are sentient while others are not. Some things have the ability to sense that consciousness. Understand that consciousness as a whole is there, but there is no ability of non-material things to perceive it. Our brain is also same. Our brain is the powerhouse that is perceiving this reality. Your eyes are open, you are gathering in information, and through that you are feeling this reality, right? You are imagining, you are experiencing this reality. So that is a perception only. So everything is made up of consciousness, but since we are have the ability to perceive that consciousness, here we are living and that there is non-living. But in reality, there is no such thing as living and non-living. This is only just coming back to what theory of relativity says, that because we are in that constant speed, we are able to see that thing. And a friendly reminder is that this earth is not static. This earth is moving. But since the conditions are such that it appears that this is static for us, and hence we are able to see that. So we should see that the center of reality is not exactly in me, not me as such, but is everywhere in you also. That center exists in you also. And that center is because everything is originating from that center. And to know that center, we have to go into this meditation. How did this world came into existence? This is not okay. We'll take this at the end of the session, not currently exactly what related to what we saw in this past session. Okay, so Shakti can be multiple. Everyone's inner Shakti is at different frequencies. So can be considered that there is multiple form of Shakti, and Shiva is one, and constant, but Shakti can be multiple. Okay, so a ocean can have multiple waves, right? A ocean can have multiple waves, and this wave think that it is happening to me. But the different perception is everything is happening in this consciousness. Everything is happening to the ocean. And whatever ocean, that wave is basically wave is experiencing it personally, right? So there is one huge current that is moving through it. That is the what we are calling universal Shakti. That there is one Shakti which is vibrating in infinite forms. Shiva is basically the eternal witness, the witness who is aware of all of it. The second is that energy that is moving through it, the vibrating thing. So vibration happens, and infinite Shakti is different Shakti is basically different waves thinking that this is it. If you're asking about intelligence, so we can say that individual intelligence is basically your Kundalini Shakti, your energy that is that stagnant energy within you. It's like a node. It's like the evolved energy that is static. That leads to intelligence. Your um ocean has a different nodes, and these nodes are basically your atomic form of Kundalini, and that is in your static state, through which you have this sense of intelligence. And when that unfolds, when that thing is basically when this thing says that there's this cosmic marriage, when your Shakti meets Shiva, is basically when you as your life energy integrates as a whole and merges into that ocean of awareness, this infinite energy. When your individual consciousness merges into that universal consciousness is when you are that flash comes, that dial of consciousness, that 4 or 5 seconds of white light comes to you. A hack to deep meditation after this session, not on recorded. How does this world come into being if everything is consciousness? Okay, so Kashmir Shaivism explains like Satchit Anand. Anand means joy. There was there was this one still creation that was joy. But then there was overflowing of joy. And there was only one static thing. And this static thing cannot know itself, right? If only I is there, there cannot be that cannot know itself, right? It only is I. There's no that. So there was this static field, static energy. But then this joy let go. Then it started vibrating. When there was vibration, one was I converted to that. I and that. So this was a vibration between I and that. There was a vibration, first explosion that they call it, right? So from static, it appears multiple. And I and that becomes two forms of consciousness. And this is basically because to recognize once you are that, it will see, okay, this was I. So this one thing is uh, let go and started manifesting. That then this manifestation happened, and thus it says that one by one this creation unfolded, and from pure consciousness to pure energy, it started and it ends at these five great elements that we are seeing. That conscious, this manifested reality coming from this unmanifested reality. So what we are saying is that pure consciousness is the unmanifested reality. That is the source. The end of this part, the 22nd verse, will tell us more about this. Okay. When the mind becomes united with the heart, one sees everything as a form of consciousness. This is basically talking about the union. When your mind and your heart, both your masculine and feminine, merges, is when you know that center of God consciousness, is when there is no division, where there is no objective. Um, okay, one more thing, very interesting. Masculine and feminine, since we put this up, these terms. Okay, so we say that everything is happening in this duality. The reality is non-dual. This everything is one. Everything is for pure consciousness. But is happening in two things. Everything is like a state of vibration, either this or this. Two polarities, right? So heart and mind. These are the two polarities in you. That is your masculine and feminine. One is mind that wants to contract, that wants to make note of it. Like in your brain also, there are two parts, your left hand brain and your right hand brain. One side of brain is connected to your analytical mind, that is making sense of what this is. Okay, this is this thing. This is your analytical mind. The other is your feminine side. That is when you are open to that experience. I will not name it, but I'll just let go and just be witness to this thing. Only mind can do only two things. Either it can think or either it can witness. Either it can think or either it can witness. Either it is working as an analytical part and making sense of things. That is your logic thing. This is the way of science. The other is the way of how you are being receptive to this experience. This is your feminine part. This is your other side of your brain. So when you're there is a merging of your mind and heart, when you're there as a one awareness, when there is no dualities in you, is when your center becomes one with that God consciousness. And one, what we're saying, this one, right? This experience is possibly by the absorption of that individual mind into that universal consciousness, which is the center and foundation of all reality. When you, as your mind shuts down and you have this thing, okay, I'll expand. Now I will expand. Now I'll try to find the center which lives inside me. That is when you achieve that. Then comes the next, which is very related to it. Shuddha Tattva. Shuddha Tattva. Shuddha Tattva is the pure element in you. It is talking about the center that we are saying, the center of the universal consciousness. What this samdhan means? This means aiming. When you're aiming at the pure center, when you're aiming at your own center, is when you can attain to your highest self. When you attain to, when you're aiming as your awareness, you are using your awareness as a bow, and you are using that bow to take an aim on that center of universal consciousness. That is when you get free of bondage. That is when you attain to that Shuddha Tattva. That is your pure principle. That is your Shiv Tattva. That is your Turiya. That was the screen in all of your awareness where you were always there. So that is um, what is Shuddha Tattva. So we have to aim at it. So in meditation also, you are there as an awareness, and you have to go apart from this objective field to this pure subjectivity, right? So this is what is, by the contemplation of this pure principle of the supreme reality, the yogi is freed from bondage. One more thing is a teaching from Upanishads, which says neti neti, not this, not this. So it says that whatever you think is the reality, just negate. Okay. If my thought comes, okay, remove yourself, I am not the thinker. If another thing comes, negate that. Okay, I am also not associating myself with the thought of what I am going to eat. So whenever things will arise, you just have to negate what you're doing. Where there's a thought, there's a thinker. What you're doing is you're not attaching yourself to it. You're just aiming yourself. I will only know that one true source which lives within me. I will, you have that courage, you have that power that I will know what this center of existence is. And since I am also the part of existence, it must be in me also. I can find it within me also. So that I am contemplating in this pure element that is beyond all objective world. It is the pure subjectivity. It was always within you. I don't know how morally right it is to quote from other culture, but in Quran also it says that God is closer to you than your jugular vein. That is in your vein of your neck. It is so close. That is your subjective field is always there, and you are there. You associate yourself in the objective field. So when you are aiming at the pure element of Shiva, he possesses Shiva's in unlimited energy. When you become one with him, you realize the non-dual awareness. You are there as an energy also. As we say, consciousness and energy, two polarities. Consciousness and energy. Consciousness is a thing, is the screen who is knowing, who is the eternal knower, and energy is through which this consciousness knows itself. So you, as an energy, merges yourself in that infinite energy. And that is when you attain to that state of Shiva. You attain to that state of Shunyata. When you experience your true blissful nature, you see that, okay, I was always possessing of this treasure that was in me. But there were no words. It was this state of nirvikalp samadhi. It was thoughtless state of awareness where you're absorbed into it, where you, as your awareness, udyamo, with your active efforts, you aim at it and you become one with it, is when you possess Shiva's ultimate energy. When one is mentally united with pure Shiva principle, he becomes like Sadashiva, completely free from the limitation of the empirical individual. Okay, so Sadashiva is basically what is the highest tattva a man can reach beyond pure Shiva and pure Shakti. Third tattva is Sadashiva. Is basically your when you're one with your higher Shiva. When you know, okay, I am. When you get that energy, when you get your pure aware, knowledge that I am this, I am this. That is your state of Sadashiva. You are completely free from the limitation of empirical individual. That is that empirical individual, due to its contraction, due to its limitation, goes into this state of desire and suffering. This limitation gets to an end because now once he has achieved his um non-dual true self, when you get to experience that blissful self, is when he can be free from it. He can be free from the sufferings that bind with which comes with attachments. Okay. Vitarka Atma Jnanam. Vitark means conviction, and Atma Jnanam means self knowledge. The one who realizes his true self, this becomes his conviction, that he knows that this is the truth. You cannot take away enlightenment from anyone. That is your subjective experience, and once it happens, it stays with you. And you cannot, it's an irreversible process because it's a transformation. It's a lifelong, there are so many lifetimes where you have traveled and now you're here. And once you have that self knowledge, that becomes your conviction, because that is something which is also beyond the mind. That every experiences of happy and sad is coming from the mind. But this was the first time you go into that state of no mind, where you achieve this state of no mind. And that is when you go beyond the state of mind. That is when you know, okay, this is the truth. Because here there was no mind to fool you. There was just you as an awareness who experiences that flash forth of your universal consciousness with you. And this becomes your conviction. And he he cannot accept anything else, because everything else will is belief. But this is not belief. This is his own experiences. That experience does not come with anything else. It was, so this Atmagyanam, this self knowledge, becomes his conviction. Full conviction of one's identity with Shiva. That means he says Shivoham, I am Shiva, that my identity is not this. My identity is beyond this. My identity is always one with Shiva. And this is what his conviction is. Because now he has experienced this with his own awareness. He does not rely on words, the limited power what words hold, because now he has seen the seer, he has known the knower, he has experienced what is his highest self. So you cannot take away from it. There's a story of a Sufi saint. His name was Analak. Sorry, what was his name? His statement was Analak. He says, I am God. And because of this reason of his statement, Analak, which literally means I am God, he was sentenced to death because people around him did not accepted what he was saying. He was saying from his conviction, conviction of self knowledge. He know that this is his true self, and he cannot say the Al Mansur, right? So he said that I am God, but people around him said you cannot be God. How can you be God? So okay, why suddenly people are joining? We are almost done. So because of this statement, he was sentenced to death because people did not understand. But he was speaking from his source. He has known his source, and now he was speaking from there. So any inferences of such a yogi is knowledge of his real self. Yogi does not, yogi means somebody who has merged into that consciousness, who has merged into that universal consciousness. Loka Ananda Samadhi Sukham. Loka means world. Any enjoyment you get, this world has. Any joy that this world has to offer you, this equal amount of joy is experienced in Samadhi. Samadhi is when you are in that deepest state, is what we are calling Samadhi. When you are absorbed in your true self. The whole joy of that experience, the same joy is incomparable. There nothing can be compared to that experience because it's so beyond, so profound, and this is so super ecstatic that entire joy of the world will get cannot compete this experience of samadhi. You see, when there is a state of samadhi, there's not only you that is in that ecstatic state. That is okay. Now you are seeing your true self, but that is also that witness who is witnessing via you that rejoices. So it says when somebody has samadhi, the whole world rejoices with it because this existence itself finds a new node through which is experiencing itself. We You asked like why was this world created? In short, the world was created so that the knower can know itself. And this cosmic order completes with this samadhi, with this experience of samadhi, where you get your bliss of whole self. The bliss of loka is the ecstasy of samadhi. Every worldly joy cannot cannot be greater than what is the ecstasy of samadhi. So it is something which is so blissful. The real problem is you cannot aim for something which you have not known, right? How can you go in a pursuit in which you have no knowledge of? Okay, this thing existed. So this is why it comes a little bit difficulty for the mind to go into that state of no mind, what you're doing. But when you're understanding that this, whatever joy this world can give me, whatever happiness in this world can give me, that is perceived by my mind, is overshadowed by the bliss of my true self. And this is why I will meditate. This will help you of going beyond your mind into that state of no mind. In every bit of knowledge, the yogi feels the delight of eye consciousness. There is this transmission of this delight among those who come in contact with him. So it says that delight of that eye consciousness, that samadhi, that is taken to in your personal experiences also. And this there's a transmission of this delight to people who come in contact with him. Okay. Shakti sadhne shariropati. This means this meditation on this Shakti will give him siddhis. Siddhis is basically spiritual powers. And this is not because you are aligning your energy of will with the divine will. As we had explored before, that there's only one will, that is divine will, that is operating in all of us. In the grand scheme of things, there is no personal will of wave. The wave cannot decide how it will move. It can only witness what is happening to it. It cannot change it. It can just be turn its direction of what he is witnessing. But there is one divine will. There is one divine will that is operating in all of it. So by aligning your personal self to the divine self, to your higher self, is when you unlock your greater um, degree of manifestation and hence you get these spiritual powers. Okay, one more important thing about the siddhis is basically siddhis are the highest form of maya because this is something also a form of desire. If you see, like if you have the desire ki I will have siddhis, that is why I should meditate. Then it also becomes a new form of bondage. And this time it is your spiritual ego that you have this ego of okay, now I have this siddhi. So now you become this doer who carries this siddhi. But in reality, what we see is that this is also maya. This is what we are calling that we have to uh, then if we get into the siddhi, we will not be able to contemplate on that pure tattva, the shiv tattva, that pure subjectivity, which is common between all, right? So with meditative on Shakti, you will get siddhis, and that is because you are aligning your will with your energy will of your divine will. Okay, this basically says that this yogi who has achieved it can separate these elements. He can control these elements. So he will be able to unite the gross elements, to separate them, to know how and with what, which element objects in the universe are composed. He will know that reality of things, that there is something which is beyond that. That consciousness is something which pervades even the material universe. And as we say that he can go into that shunya state, he can willingly go into that shunya state. He can move away from this object ob- association with earth, and can go into that ether element, right? That in the space is there. So after this session, I will give you a guided meditation link which will get you into that ether space where you can experience no division space. We know there is no division in you, and there is only space that there is. And it comes from a profound Tantra text, Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, which gives you different techniques of how you can realize that true self. Okay. This says that because of the Shuddh Vidya means pure knowledge. Because he knows this pure knowledge, he attains mastery over the Shakti Chakra. He gains mastery over his desires. He gives mastery of over his mind, because of his right discernment of what is true and what is not. He can have a better discernment of, this is what we are calling Vivek, that he can have control his mind, he can control his senses. Now comes the last part of this Shiv Sutra, of this first section, and it is such a beautiful thing. It says, by mystically uniting with the great lake, the infinite reservoir of divine energy, the yogi experiences the vibrant sources of mantra. By uniting, by mystically uniting with the great lake, that the same example as ocean, that there is a pure ocean of consciousness around you, right? But when that drops, when the drop, the individual empirical self merges into that universal consciousness mystically, is when this yogi experiences the vibrant source of mantra. Mantra is basically what is the subtle sounds. So we are seeing only the physical reality. Then above it, before it, comes the subtle part, the subtle reality, where your thoughts are, where these mantras are, where these sounds are, beyond this material. Third is the causal thing. So every material thing that we are seeing is coming from this source of consciousness. And this is basically what is this great lake of consciousness. By mystically uniting with that great lake, there's a great lake all around. This consciousness is all around. But by mystically uniting with it, you experience the source of mantras. You experience the source of everything. You experience the source of your subtle powers. You experience where you are coming from. And why is this important? Why this is called liberation? This is what we are calling Kevalya. This is what we are calling that this is exactly the reason you are here on this earth, to know yourself. The divine wanted to know itself, and hence it started manifesting. And then you are here right now, who is aware of it. And when you know yourself is basically when you are liberated. Why? What is this liberation from? Liberation is primarily from your fear. What is this fear from? Fear is from death. You don't want to face death. Why? Because you don't know where you will go from. There's a sense of uncertainty. And a human mind, for protecting itself, does not faces the truth. He does not even accepts that there is a state of change. He just rejects it, as it names it as, okay, it was a sleep. but he does not see that there was a change in vibration of this consciousness. In a similar way, when you are going through this experience of your physical death, you fight it because everything that you thought you were will go with this physical death. The sense of I, the sense of I-ness will go away after this physical death. And because you don't want to face that, there's a fear because you do not see itself also. You do not accept that you will die one day. This experience of meditation, of nirvikal samadhi, is when you are there in that state of thoughtless, no thoughts, in a thoughtless state where there will be no sense of I. This is why it is called the great death. This is why enlightenment is called the great death. Because the mind will resist that it does not want to shut off. But you, with your pure contemplation on that tattva, on that essence within you, you go beyond, you jump, you quantum jump your identity from being witnessed to that witness. When you become one with it, is basically when you eradicate the fear of death. Because then, once you know where you have come from, is exactly how you're going to know where you will go after death. And this is why it is called liberation. This is why it is called moksha. And our goal, highest goal, is to realize our true self. And with this, we will conclude our session on Shiv Sutras. The highest Shakti, on account of its depth, like a lake, is a universal consciousness. When an aspirant is united with it, when your individual consciousness is merged with that universal consciousness, when he is constantly aware of his identity, even at the time of his death, he knows who is going to die because he will know that I was never this body. Is that this body was only a vehicle that I am transferring from? Is when he completely frees himself from the fear of death as well because he know that he is eternal and he will not die. He will just simply go merge back into that source. And this is what is basically what is the highest goal of a man, to realize his true self. He has an experience of the potency of the great mantra from where everything is coming from. Having an experience of it is the feeling of the throb of the supreme I consciousness as his own inmost self, is his core of his being. Now he know where his center is. This I consciousness is the generative source of all mantras. All mantras derive their power from it. It is the highest essence. This Shiv Tattva, this universal consciousness, when is attained, when you experience that, it's the highest experience you can have as a human. So this is what is the first part of it, and this is what is said to be revived by Shiva. What Shiva? This divine will, this universal will. Why did it appear? At that time of 1200 years ago, there was this increasing worship of duality where people were did not know their true self because the goal was always for this creation to know itself. There was a drying need of a non-dual teachings, and hence came this Shiv Sutras, where in this small verses they hide so much depth that it is not something that you can gulp up in one session, but it's like you have to keep coming back to it because it carries the deepest truth of your existence. And this is when we will conclude our Shiv Sutras, only the first part of it. Such a beautiful form of work, such a beautiful canon of wisdom these verses have. And this was just the first part of it. All right. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you understand what we are doing? We are going to have a beautiful 15-minute guided meditation. I'll send the link to the group, and I need all of you to just sit in that silence and just in this silence try to just be empty and focus in that core sense of being, because now you have know that there is something which might be which is beyond my personal experience, which is not only true to me, but this is my true existence. And this is when we say Om Namah Shivaya. I bow down to the supreme awareness who is aware via you. I bow down to the supreme consciousness. Om Namah Shivaya. All right. We'll take some questions now.